The only reason that white people in the United States or anywhere we are, in Europe, in Africa, in Australia, in Israel, wherever we are the colonizers. We are the colonizers, and we live off the expense of the assault, Europe's assault on Africa, the kidnapping of African human beings, the trafficking, all of these things that we hear today. This is where it came from. Hundreds of years of assaulting and stealing everything that African people and Africa as a continent had, and putting it into the hands of white people. And so this is why, as the chairman has said, the true class struggle, the true working class in the world is the African and colonized working class, not white people, because all white people, and you know this is true, you and I know this is true by just living our lives and seeing it. All white people sit on the pedestal on the backs of African and indigenous people. And, you know, the statistics are that even poor white people have an easier ability in a crisis to raise $3,000 in an emergency than middle-class African people do. Because we live in social wealth.
I know I don't understand your experience.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I have never had to live it.
Come on now.
I can sympathize, and I can recognize when things are wrong. For instance, if a black man or woman should never be afraid for their life, for getting pulled over for speeding.
Come on now. Come on.
But I have never lived in that fear.
Come on now. Come on.
No black man or woman should ever be reluctant to walk outside for fear of racial profiling.
Tell it.
But I have never been racially profiled.
That's right. Come on now.
No black man or woman should ever expect to go to jail in their lifetime because of the color of their skin.
Come on now.
But I have never lived in that expectancy.
That's good.
And this is why I don't believe in the phrase, I don't see color.
That's right.
One, to say you don't see color is a lie. We're different. We can all see that. But two, and way more importantly, to deny the differences in our skin is to deny the differences in our privilege.
Come on.
I'm going to say that again because I think it's worth repeating. To deny the differences in our skin is to deny the differences in our privilege. To deny the differences in our color is to promote ignorance. Ignorance is the reason that systemic racism and oppression is allowed to exist in this country. I'm going to talk on about three things. One of those is change, the other is ignorance, and one is discomfort. I'll get there.
Go ahead. Take your time.
Broadly speaking, why am I here? Because I want change. But let me speak on that for a second. Because I think a lot of people want change. I think a lot of people say they want change, but let me clarify. I think a lot of white people think they want change. But here's the thing about that. In order for there to be a true and genuine change, for you, for the black community, for people of color, there has to be an equal and requited amount of change for white privilege.
That's right.
And that is something that white people don't want to think about. They don't want to admit that. White people don't want to acknowledge the head start we have in life just for being born this color. That is willful ignorance.
Put it on front line.
Willful ignorance is what allows oppression to continue in this country. I think one of the biggest things that allows ignorance to continue is our education system.
There it is, baby.
Damn, our education system. I can recognize when something is wrong, and that is wrong. Why? Because when you tell that history, the history that excludes black history and black culture and the black experience, you allow white people to think that nothing is wrong. And when that happens, you allow white people to think, well, it was bad back then, but it's not bad now. Hell no.
That's right.
It's bad now. In fact, some might say it's worse because this is systemic oppression.
That's right.
This is institutional oppression. This is oppression that is not overt, but it is just as powerful, and we are able to hide it. And this is not my time to have my voice heard, but I will use my voice for you. I promise.
Brothers and sisters, today the world is envisioning something that we never thought will come to happen. We never thought we'll see a day when white people will be coming out and confessing all the atrocities that they did to black people accepting that the fault of what is happening in the world today, what is wrong with the United States, what is wrong with the world today, all the problems that we are seeing happening today, they played a big part in this. But the most interesting part is, see, initially, they usually thought that they were the authors of, civilization, that they brought order, they brought all this, order in the world. But later on, they came to realize that whatever they have been telling people were all lies. But then they're coming out and confessing the parts that they have played in making the world a worse place. Probably, brothers and sisters, we never thought that this day will come to truth. But again, you ask yourself, what's the force that is driving these folks to come out and speak the truth? Do you think that is guilt? Do you think that they just think that the time is due, that everyone's going to come and say the truth about everything which is happening? Brothers and sisters, I want you to buckle up for this video. I'll be back and then I'll be sharing my thoughts in regards to this. I'm your host and presenter, Agent Stories, and I feel like this is time. It's an important time in human history that we need to discuss all these issues, and we are seeing a huge shift. Why are we seeing a huge shift? Because the truth is coming out forefront, and white people are not hesitating to say the truth, brothers and sisters. These are things that black people used to say, but then they were being prosecuted for saying these things. But today, we are seeing that the cup is filled and white folks are tired, and now they're coming out and they're deciding to say the truth, because at the end of the day, you know damn well that the truth will set you free. So brothers and sisters, buckle up for this video. I'm your number one host and presenter, Agent Stories, and if you're watching me for the first time, I'm asking you to please subscribe to the channel, join the membership, and really get to see what I can offer you. So let's get into it. I'll be back with my commentary in regards to this.
Question a lot. Why did slavery take so long to end in the U.S.? I mean, we had 3 major rebellions and none of them worked. Slave owners in America had something nobody else had. 5 million poor white people. That's what W.E.B. Du Bois argued in 1935. He said slavery demanded a special police force. And he wasn't just talking about slave patrols. Poor whites, folks who had nothing in Europe. In America, they labored long hours with little pay and terrible work conditions. These 5 million poor whites created an informal surveillance system. They snitched, kidnapped, and returned slaves. They made sure nobody got out of line. And when slave rebellion started, they came out in even larger numbers. Keep in mind, they didn't own any slaves. They weren't making a real profit, and they probably could have changed their conditions had they teamed up with us and waged a class struggle. But policing blacks was the only thing that made them white. It was the only thing that connected them to the planter class. Du Bois said they were just pleasing their own vanity. So before Ring, ADT, whatever you got, poor whites were the surveillance system for wealthy slave owners. Without the white public's investment in maintaining slavery, we would have tore the whole system down. Now who's responsible for reparations?
The problem with white liberals when it comes to the black community is that they don't even realize that they're doing more harm than good. And I firmly and wholeheartedly know to be true that for most of them, it's coming from a loving, compassionate, kind-hearted place, but it's still objectively causing harm. The white liberal sees the black community as a community that needs to be safe. We need to add further protections for the black community. We need to rewrite laws for the black community. We need to hand out government assistance, to keep helping the black community. When all that's doing is keeping them in a self-destructive cycle. Rely on handouts, rely on the government, rely on external help. And I'm sorry, but this is a form of bigotry. It's not your intention, but it's backhanded and it's there. You can't succeed without my help. That's racism. Not one of the messages in the liberal policy for the black community is you are great on your own, you just need to see it. And that's what conservatives have been trying to say for years and years. You don't need liberals in office or an immense amount of government assistance to be great. You are great. Just get out of your own way. Get out of the influence that makes you feel like you don't have a place in this world outside of your community, outside of drinking or drugs or music. And if this wasn't the truth, then why do we have black doctors, black scientists, black authors, black surgeons, black engineers, black professors, black teachers? Hell, we had a black president who wouldn't have been elected without the white vote. The only thing stopping the black community from being the best it can possibly be is liberal ideology. Instead of passing out standards to the black community, all you do is pass out sympathy. And you excuse destructive choices just so they don't feel feel excluded from your love. And again, I know it's coming from a good place, but that's not allyship. I know that the Black community has an incredibly dark past, but so do most cultures and races. The Jewish community survived a genocide and rebuilt their entire country with some of the smartest people on the planet. The Asian community were thrown in internment camps, millions of them. And they rebuilt, and again, now they're dominating most of our professional world and our universities. There is no reason that the Black community cannot do the same. The only thing stopping them is you, the white liberal, convincing them that without your assistance, they can't rebuild like those other communities did. You convince them every single day that they are too weak, too broken, and too damaged and traumatized to do anything on their own. And you don't think that's a form of holding someone back?
Okay, so let's talk facts. Racism isn't just about ignorance or hate, right? It's about profit, because slavery didn't just build cotton empires, it built Wall Street. Black bodies were literally collateral for loans, insurance policies, and investments. So you fast forward to today, and you have a private prison system that still racks in millions for mass incarceration. You got news outlets that boost ratings by pushing fear and division because outrage sells. And let's not forget, redlining real estate, discriminatory insurance, and predatory lending, they didn't just happen. They were built on racism, and they made people rich. See, racism has never been just about feelings. It's been about economics, because if you can dehumanize a group, right, you can exploit them. And if you can exploit them, you can profit. That's how the entire country could claim freedom and opportunity while building in wealth off of people who were denied both. So when folks talk about ending racism, it's not just about being nicer. It means redistributing power, wealth, and access, not to punish, but to repair, to balance the scale that's been tilted for centuries. But here's the catch, because people raised on privilege disguised as normal hear justice and feel like it means loss. They've never had to imagine fairness without their head start. But justice isn't scarcity, y'all. It's stability. Ending racism doesn't take something from you. It builds something with all of us. But to get there, we have to admit what too many are still afraid to say out loud. Racism was never just a glitch in the system. It is the system, and it's wildly profitable.
You need to look at this from an anthropological perspective and look at human beings more as like a species, an animal. It is not just our ability to feel that separates us from AI, but it is our ability to feel for each other. Empathy. The ability to empathize. And I say that empathy specifically is what makes you human, because animals have feelings. For example, I've seen countless videos of like people who have multiple pets, and when one passes away, the other pet will experience depression because of the loss of their buddy. Animals can feel. Humans can empathize. Literally appears in every single major religion as what we call the golden rule. That is your ability to empathize with other people. If you are unable to empathize, if you are incapable of putting yourself in their shoes and seeing how you would want to be treated if you were them, you are lacking a key component of humanity to you. You do not support the betterment of our species. You are an active detriment to our species. And if we were still in hunter-gatherer times, you would have been weeded out as the weakest link in the community. Humans can only survive in a community. People in a community protect one another. They work together. They pool resources and share. And as seen in every other species on this planet that functions in community and not alone, it is typical that if an individual is not contributing their fair share to the community, and or if they are actively harming the community itself and the well-being of all, they are then isolated from the pack and left to die alone. It was literally necessary for the advancement of our species. Now, at some point of the human population growing, we developed wealth accumulation, right? Accumulating wealth means control because you can afford land, you can afford weaponry, or an armada if you wanted. You can afford resources, and then you can control the resources, and thus now you are in a position where you are the person dictating what happens in the community. And here's the fatal problem with that. Having a lack of empathy makes it easier to acquire wealth, because you have no problem persecuting others or lying or cheating or stealing or doing whatever you have to do, including unaliving and enslaving people in your community. Because of this, communities lost the ability to weed out the people who do not have empathy and thus are harmful to the community. Not only did they lose the ability to ostracize these people, they became controlled by these people because they were able to accumulate wealth with their lack of empathy for others. And because now the people that are controlling society and ruling it are the people without empathy, we see the emergence of things like white supremacy and the patriarchy. And because of the patriarchy, women were forced to marry and reproduce with people who otherwise would not have been suitable candidates. And that is literally the reason why now, as a human community globally, we are about to have the world's first trillionaire exist, while some people cannot even afford to eat right now. Now, if you are a racist, I'd reckon you didn't stick around this long in the video. But I know that some of you are going to try to make the argument that I don't feel empathy for racists, so that makes me subhuman. And that is not true, because it is my evolutionary and biological responsibility to humans as a whole to not feel empathy towards the people who are harming the overall good of all of us. There is no reasoning or logic on this entire earth that justifies oppressing anybody. You are quite literally trying to compare non-empathy for the detriment of mankind to non-empathy for the betterment of mankind, as if they are the same thing. And I'm not saying that all racists need to die, but I am saying that I am totally okay with you guys going off on your own and starting your own communities outside of the society that I live in, because I don't want you in mine. For every racist that leaves this world, the world becomes a little bit better of a place.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing super great from wherever you're watching me from. I'm your number one host and presenter, Jintok Stories. Now let's have a chat in regards to this. Right, this is so interesting, and somebody might ask himself, why is this happening at this point of time? Why are we seeing all these white people coming out and doing all these confessions? It's like the question is, why didn't they do it before? Like, why is it that they're doing it right now? Brothers and sisters, buckle up with this presentation that I'm going to be sharing with you. We are going to try to look deep into this and try to find the best solution as to why we are seeing this happening, brothers and sisters. Now, just to get right into it, the phenomenon of white people openly confessing that they are colonizers and acknowledging that the problems facing the United States are today rooted in the colonial legacy. This shows that there is a deep and a rare moment of reckoning in the nation's historical conscience. For centuries, the dominant American narrative celebrated conquest. It celebrated expansion and manifest destiny as signs of divine favor and national greatness. However, when some white Americans today admit that they are colonizers, they are recognizing that they are the very foundation of the country, which was built on the violent displacement of indigenous people, the enslavement of Africans, and the exploitation of the non-white labor. This confession is not simply about guilt. This confession, it signals a recognition that the privileges many white people enjoying were accumulated through systemic domination, forces a confrontation with America's myth of innocence and exemptionalism, the two pillars that long shielded white society from the moral accountability. Now, there's a growing self-awareness which emerges amid a broader social and political crisis in the United States. The country is witnessing deep polarization, economic inequality, and moral confusion. The decline of its global standing, all of which can be traced back to its unresolved colonization contradictions. The United States' founding ideals of liberty and democracy were built atop a racial hierarchy designed to ensure white supremacy. Now remember that today, as economic and demographic changes challenges the hierarchy, some white Americans are beginning to understand that the nation's instability is not a foreign import, but the delayed consequences of centuries of oppression. The wealth gap, the prison industrial complex, the racialized policing, and the environmental degradation are modern expressions of the same extractive and exploitative logic that defined colonization. Brothers and sisters, when white people admit they are colonizers, they are acknowledging that the colonial mindset never ended. It merely adapted to new forms, brothers and sisters. From a scholarly perspective, this recognition aligns with what post-colonial theorists such as Frantz Fanon and Edward Said described as the return of the repressed. Now, Fanon argued that colonial powers can never escape the psychological consequences of their violence. Yes, there are psychological consequences to the oppressor, right? The colonizer's identity depends on domination, and when that domination is threatened, the colonizer experiences existential panic. In the United States, it is so much visible in the rise of white nationalists, movements, mass shooting targeting minorities, political efforts to suppress discussions of race in schools. These reactions reflect the colonizer's fear of losing control over the narrative of history. Yet, paradoxically, the very act of white individuals admitting their complicity in colonization shows that the ideological hull of whiteness is beginning to crack. This tension between confession and denial is the defining feature of America's racial psyche today, right? Also, sociologists interpret this phenomenon as part of a larger process of decolonizing whiteness. This involves a critical self-examination by white individuals and institutions about how their identity was constructed in opposition to others. You see, whiteness, as scholars like Theodore W. Allen and Noel Ignatieff demonstrated, it is not a biological fact, but it is a political invention created to divide laborers and maintain control during the colonial era. When white Americans confess to being colonizer, they are, in fact, recognizing their social category was born from domination and exclusion. See, this awareness can be transformative if it leads to the dismantling of racialized systems of privilege rather than a mere performance of guilt. Now, true decolonization will mean redistribution of power, land, and opportunity in ways that address historical theft and inequality. However, such admissions also expose the fragility of white moral identity. Remember that for centuries, the colonial project was justified by moral and religious arguments that portrayed Europeans as, civilizers and non-whites as savages, right? To now admit that one's ancestors were oppressors and that the present system still benefits from that oppression requires ethical humility that many find unbearable. And as a result, many white people use confession as a way to relieve personal guilt without challenging the structures that maintain white dominance. This dynamic, which is often referred to as performative allyship, turns confession into a spectacle rather than a catalyst for systemic change. Brothers and sisters, you understand that true reckoning demands the acknowledgement be followed by reparative actions, not symbolic gestures. And economically and politically, the United States is facing the inevitable backlash of its colonial past. The systems of extraction and domination that enriched a few at the expense of the many are now imploding from within. The empire that once colonized others are effectively colonized itself, creating a vast internal inequality, decaying infrastructure, and widespread alienation. The colonial mindset of endless expansion, exploitative and profit accumulation has left the nation spiritually and materially bankrupt. Thus, the fall of America that some confessing white people refer, it's not just a geopolitical event, but a moral one. A collapse of very myths that sustain the empire's illusion of righteousness. Brothers and sisters, please let me know what you think and feel about this episode. As you know, I'm your host and presenter, Eugene Stories, and if you're watching me for the first time, again, I'm just reminding you to please subscribe to the channel, join the membership, and really get to what I can offer you. But until then, let me see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.